It seems like there's a dozen or half a dozen apps. Oh, and were you around when I was? I don't think you were, because it was the same night that Oz was in the TV room. Because Anne was telling me she's looking for a rental, so she might be moving out very soon. Because she's got a place to look at the weekend.
Was she interested in James's place?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the place is that she's looking at. It's in that atrium.
Where do they advertise?
You didn't come up to his place. Oh, yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
What's the name of that place called?
Atrium.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah.
The atrium and the terrace.
Yep. It's almost next to the terrace where it's on the terrace where Walcott Street runs underneath it through that. Where the terrace has the overbridge to go over the top of Walcott Street. Because apparently it's a single bedroom studio, but it costs $390 plus electricity.
Oh, I think it's actually $395 and there's electricity.
Oh,
is
okay.
there?
I think the electricity is extra.
Oh, I think that might make it too expensive. But
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. I wouldn't go there because I want to save as much money as possible.
Tanya's on the benefit, isn't she? I don't think she's working.
I think you're right. And she's still there, isn't she?
Yeah. I wonder how much their power would be.
Because I actually think it's the same people that yeah, that's what Anne was saying. It's the same people that rented to James his apartment that are renting this other apartment because they own several apartments in the building. But from what I've seen on the internet, on Trade Me or whatever, $390 is quite cheap.
Would you ever go flatting?
I used to flat. I went from flatting with other people who owned their house or were financing buying their house to living in a flat in an apartment building and having it all to myself, and decided, wow, that's really good. It gives you so much freedom to have the place to yourself. To moving to another place, to moving to here. And in both cases, the first one was a block of flats. There were about 24 in that block and about 20 in the other block on the same property that were owned by a friend of mine. In fact, he wasn't the only one who owned it. He was in shares with another property owner. And then they decided to sell them off. And he actually offered me one of the places, but I just didn't want it at the time. I should have gone for it because it was actually really good. It was concrete floor, concrete walls, concrete roof. Oh no, it might not have been concrete roof because I had the flat on the top level so I could hear the blooming, you know, those big gulls when they get on your roof. I could hear them tramping around. But all the flats below. And it was a reasonable price. But then you couldn't sell all of them. So in the end, because he wasn't selling them all, he didn't have enough, you know, people that wanted to buy. He sold it in one lot to Housing Corp. So I think it became, one of their places for community housing. But it was really good. And then I moved into another group, which ironically he had owned years before. And had sold, and those were individual, that was a body corp, because he was going to make this thing a body corp. But the one that I moved to was one that had become a body corp, and that wasn't anywhere near as good. It was dearer because it had ferro concrete as your exterior walls, and then it had wood between the floors, and it wasn't. You could hear through the walls and through the floor. Whereas the previous one, you know, that was solid concrete, you couldn't hear a thing. And it was amazing because the rooms had full width windows, and when you left your, because I was on the top floor, I could leave my blinds open during the day, or the drapes or the curtains, and I could leave windows open because no one could climb 4 floors to try and get in the windows. And the sun would come round because mine faces north, and I would get all that sunlight, and when I got home at night time and opened the door, it felt really nice and warm because of the concrete walls and that all absorbed all that sun, even when it was overcast. And I hardly ever used the heater. Didn't need it because it was like one of these night stores. The room heated, the flat heated up during the day, and then just kept the heat overnight.
Electricity becomes one of the major bills, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The first
If
one.
you get the right place where you've got very little, where the place heats itself and insulates itself, you're just set. Because then the only thing you need electricity for is cooking. And then you might only cook once every 4 days because you can cook something like a macaroni cheese and you can put that in the fridge and you can have it each day. Just heat it up.
Because like with the bills, like there's the rental, electricity and food.
Yeah.
The most important one would be to pay the rent first, wouldn't it? Paying the rent first and then food and then electricity.
Well, you can get away with your electricity because as long as you don't use too much hot water and you don't really need the heater on, if you've got things like duvets in there, because that's what I used to do in my flat. I wouldn't turn the heater on, but I'd just sit in the lounge chair and watch TV, and then I'd have my duvet.
But you have to
And
keep paying for it
duvet
because
over
the electricity company turns.
Oh yeah, you
it
still
off
have
if
you have to pay. But what I mean is you don't have, because your big bills are your hot water and then running your heater to keep your flat warm. So if you're not using the heater, which is using 1,000 kilowatts an hour, then you save quite a bit.
Wahoo. I'm gonna try nothing.
Because you'll knock 30 or 40 or more dollars off your electricity bill a month if you don't use your heater. Yeah, you do have to pay that bill, but yeah.
It's probably easier and in a way better to skimp on the electricity than the food.
It is.
But the rent's important because if you don't pay the rent, the landlord kicks you out.
Because you'll feel cold, well, when you get out. But if you're on a couch and you put your duvet over you, you'll actually start to feel really warm. And you'll notice that if you put your hand out, it'll be freezing cold, but you under that duvet, you'll be warm as toast. And that's what people used to do.
You know, Texas getting this winter hit.
Freaking crazy, isn't it?
The rest of the country must be covered as well.
Did you see the story about Colorado City?
No.
So Colorado City, I don't know why they call it a city because there's only about 4,000 or 7,000 people there, but I suppose that's big enough to be a city. But their Texas as a state voted not to take federal funds for certain things like their network. So because they didn't have to follow federal guidelines. They didn't have to be inspected, so they could do anything. So that's why there's all been all these.
They stuffed it. The winter
they didn't do them.
storm and stuffed it. They did them the least that they could get away with.
Yeah. So they didn't do any maintenance, and they didn't provide the grid with enough, lines or whatever to carry the electricity or the load. So when they got the storm, everything fell apart, and yeah. So anyway, the city ran out, didn't have any electricity, so it's got no electricity and it can't heat its water, so the water's freezing, they can't get water.
Is Colorado City in Texas?
Apparently, yeah, it's on the western end of the
I
city.
thought because you said Colorado, and the
same.
Colorado River runs through
Arizona or something, doesn't it? Or whatever.
God knows where it is. I think there's
But
Colorado,
anyway,
right?
So, yeah, heaps and